Doing experts, getting proposed plans, getting ideas, looking at costs. We always had costs in mind, and trying to come up with a plan that we could present to the board for the board to review for possible submission to the membership for approval. And there were, of course, various cost issues associated with that. The question of the paspalum was central. Do you keep it or what? We know that I think it's 12 out of 14 local communities that had all paspalum have replaced it on their greens. They've gotten tired of dealing with it. They've gone to mostly Tiff Eagle or a similar strain of grass. We can, while we're doing that, we reason we can correct other things. We can take care of some of the problems that were identified. The golf course is the centerpiece of our community. People come to Forest Glen because of the golf course and because of the bargain that Forest Glen is. They stay for the people, but they come for the golf course. And we got to keep that in mind. We've got to make sure that we treat this as the centerpiece that it is. So the committee, again, interviewed various architects, various designers, got several ideas. We fortunately came upon Ron Force. He submitted the best ideas, the best plan, in our opinion, and the most cost-effective plan. It included not only replacing the grass, of course, we're going to switch, okay. Replacing the grass and putting in grass that's appropriate for green complexes, but also taking out things like the 17th hole bunker that's right in front and catches a good shot. And don't get me started on all the other issues. But Ron came up with a lot of good suggestions and a master plan. Now, you may have seen the master plan. I think the folks that are interested enough to show up here have probably also looked at the website. You've seen the whole master plan. You've seen the narrative that goes along with it. Ron's here today to specifically discuss a selection of 6 holes that are fairly representative of the ideas that he has given us. Ron Force has like 30 years of experience. He's done over 100 golf courses, some prominent ones locally, some prominent ones in New England that some of our board members are familiar with. He's a guy who really knows what he's talking about. He doesn't give us the sort of, let me say it this way. He understands how real people play golf. And he's given us a design in accordance with that. The committee thought it was great. We submitted it to the board. The board thinks it's worthy of submission to the membership for an approval, which we recommend. So Ron Force is here to explain all of this. And now, here's Ronnie.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming out. I know you had to do it twice because I know a lot of people thought we were lying through our teeth the first time. So you had to check us out. So I'm Ron Force, president of Force Design. We're located in southwestern Pennsylvania, south of Pittsburgh a bit, and New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And my partner and associate is Jim Nagel. He's remained up there in Pennsylvania. He can have his winter. We'll take ours. And so we've been around since 1989. Jim has been with me for 25 years next month. And we are a national firm. We work from coast to coast and Canada a bit until COVID. And we don't work for Calgary anymore because they let a Canadian guy do that instead. So we are recipients of our firm is recipients of 2 Renovation of the Year awards issued by Golf Inc. magazine. One was the Bedford Springs Resort in Southern Pennsylvania, 2009, then in 2014, the restoration of Donald Ross's Country Club of Buffalo in New York. We recently had Davenport Country Club in Iowa go into the Golf Digest top 100. It's ranked number 95 in their top 100 in the US now, after that restoration reconstruction project. So we've been greatly influenced by Donald Ross, Tillinghast, the classic architects. I grew up in West Colwyn, New Jersey, worked at Mountain Ridge Country Club, played high school golf there. deeply influenced by the artistic use of green contouring by the masters, Seth Rayner and all those guys. It's an influence and is not an exact replica in our work, but you may see as we go through here what that influence is. So I want to mention that there was a survey. We have taken heed to that. We've taken all that under advisement and everything that we've done. We've been here numerous times on the property, gone over every area of the course. We looked at it, as was said. We try to really understand the scratch golfer. A friend of mine in New Smyrna Beach came to one of our jobs, shot 5 birdies and 2 bogeys. Just this guy was a caddy on the PGA Tour. We understand how those guys play. We understand how the average guy plays. We understand how ladies groups like to have them. There's 9-hole ladies. There's 18-hole ladies. We tried to really understand the broad spectrum, and it's built into this plan. So a couple other preliminary points here. When we do planning for a golf course, to improve a golf course, master planning for existing courses, firstly, we want to ensure the golf course is safe for everybody. That's the first consideration. Second, the golfer has to enjoy his or herself on the round of golf. We aim for the greatest enjoyment by the greatest number of people. And that was even articulated by the great Alistair McKenzie, who did Cypress Point and Augusta National. That's very important that you're designing for the people to use it. The third is want to keep maintenance costs reasonable. Design follows that. So we keep our feet on the ground with the practicalities. We blend all those aspects in together and try to get the best product we can. And we pull the things out and retain the things that we find really good and solid on existing golf course and build on those. So the way we build on those is what we call the 3 elements. Every good golf course has, you can boil down good golf architecture into 3 different elements. We call them the elements of good design. And the first one is strategy. Good golf courses like Riviera in Los Angeles. I've had the privilege of working on 2 of the golf holes at Riviera in Los Angeles. The golf hole with the bunker in the middle of the green, the 6th hole, we rebuilt that whole complex. And the 10th hole, we added the short famous par 4, we added an alternate green. And that course is very strategic, even for the pros that hit the ball 310 in the air. Very strategic design. It's important that golf courses are strategically designed because that enables the bogey golfer to zigzag around the trouble, but the straight line tee to the cup there's some trouble in the way, and there's things they have to think about on the way. So good golf holes are those that really allow a reasonable bogey. You can get around the golf course and shoot 90, 92. But the good golfer really is challenged in making birdies. They have to really think and place shots and be very strategic. Strategic golf holes allow wide enough corridors for people to choose their route around the golf course too, and have various options that they can do. It's not mandatory like the shot to the 18th green. It's do or die. Okay. So, and you'll see that's one of the 6 golf holes. Strategy, then variety is the second thing. You want a maximum variety on a golf course. You don't want the par 3s all with a 6-iron in their hand or a hybrid in your hand when you tee off. You want different lengths of golf holes. You want to have different orientations, different shapes, different types of green complexes, different looks and character of the various bunkers as you get around. So you want a lot of variety. And you want everything, thirdly, to look very natural. It should look like it's always been there as part of the landscape. And some golf courses are very clumsily built. Others are built to blend in with the contours around them. So strategy, variety, naturalness, those things we tried to infuse as much as that as we could into your golf course, playing off really good, solid things you have. You got a good routing. You got a lot of little short holes in the middle of the course, or about 2/3 through. But we've improved on those too, I believe. So let's jump into that. Those are our ground rules and the principles. Let's go to the first one. It's hole number 6. Now we're only showing 6 holes because all the details by the time we got done with all the details in a plan for 18 holes, half of you'd be asleep and the other half would be wandering out the door probably. So we just don't want to belabor it. But all the principles that you see going on in these golf holes are built into the entire 18 hole plan. So hole number 6, There are some things for playability that we have built in the plan to make things a little more playable. There are some aspects to this design that are easier, and there's some aspects that are harder. Your greens are going to get larger, but the undulations and contours we put into the greens offset that. It's not just a matter of hitting the green, but it's where you hit the green that makes a difference. And like I said, if you've ever played a Donald Ross golf course and those other kinds of classic courses, it's really artistic and beautifully molded greens. We're known for doing good greens, if I may say so. That's something that we've worked hard at. We've learned from the masters, and they're playable. You can cup all over them, but they're very interesting. And we're not dumbing down the golf course, even though some aspects in this design make the course easier or more playable, okay? Maybe a little semantics there, but they're very similar. So hole 6, first of all, remove the grass just over the pond and establish coquina. The teeing grounds are in decent place. The Glen tee from the right to the left. It's a better location for it on the ground. And where the cart path now crosses, what do you guys call that trough that goes across the sixth fairway?
Berlin Wall.
Berlin Wall? So, okay, Berlin Wall is coming out, okay? We're going to take the cart path, move it from being there in the trenches back to the end of the lake, and we're going to bring it across there. And to hide the cart path, raise the grade on the tee side of it just a wee bit, just to hide it, you look right across it. So we're taking the path that gets so close to the condos down the left side, get it out of there, and you can see that there's the red X up there, the second landing area, the little box on the center line. The red X is where the path comes out, and a series of mounds and about a 15-yard wide path of fairway goes through. So we want the carts to get out of there, not go through that narrow gap of fairway. We want them, and some of them to the right, get around to the outside for the mounds. The mounds are a hazard, much more of a hazard for the better golfer than they are for the average, 90 shooter, 100 shooter, whatever. Stand sometimes becomes a problem. So there's two, left side, right side, a little shorter. Then as you go up into the green, I'll just step here. And this is putting surface, the big long, I got out there and started looking around. It's like, there's a lot of land out here. Why don't we just use it? And so let's broaden the feature, make a wide green, cut off the front part of it. It gains you a few yards on the scorecard too. Green with two higher areas. And we're not talking about this high. We're talking about grade changes that are a foot, 9 inches, 16 inches, those kinds of changes from the low area of the green to these upper plateaus. This is an illustration of what I mean by now where you hit your approach shot really matters, but you can still lag putt and get yourself, a 2-putt on the green. There will be cupping area in the front center, not necessarily through the swale, but this kind of green is a fantastic green for rewarding shots that are well played into the green on the approach. And this is a mound here, out of the right, left, move it further left, more or less ball containment down there for the pulled shot, front right bunker to give a more interesting approach shot to this front right area. So can we go to the next, please? The challenge on number 7 is primarily, we really didn't like the cart path being so close to the condominiums where there's room down the right side. We're just taking it, take advantage of that situation, run that path down the right side through the scrub, through the coquina, and resume near the green, a hard cart path, and you'll see the green area, moving it to where the center of the green proposed is on the left edge of the existing green. Get it away from the woods, get it out of the shade, and get it to where it can grow. And then this cart path can get out of there, and there's a ball containing bunker or a green side bunker guarding it on that par 3. The tees are in pretty good positions, very good positions, but they need to be expanded and Bringing the coquina scrub across where you see the numeral 7 across the golf hole, eliminate some turf grass watering. And then the green, because this is a rather short hole, the green is divided into, and we don't do this in every green like we just saw in 6, but divide the green into 3 separate levels, upper, mid, and lower. And where it's kind of a crown on this side of the ball, you got the chipping area all the way around. So it makes a difference with a short iron in your hand. We would never design a green like this where the levels make a difference. This is not a 4-iron approach. This is a shorter iron approach. The approach to the green is you can run the ball into the green. So there's a lot of challenging pin positions throughout the greens that we're designing and shown here. And or you can play right to the middle of the green. So some good strategy. The bunkers come into the front right, and it's perfect for a fade shot right in there, whatever, if you like that kind of shot, which I like a fade shot. But anyway, let's go to the next hole. Number 13, the eyesore. The problem has to be overcome there. And the way we want to do that is, well, all right, let me point out something. You can see this gray existing fairway where the center point is, where the 13 numeral is, and the little dashed line just above it. We want to expand that fairway into where all that scrubby looking bank is, and we want to eliminate the scrubby looking bank there. What we want to do is get that fairway expanded, fill in, and build a cap rock wall. It needs to be 5 feet high to get that done, and get fill material pushed right out into that wall and expand that whole area. Now coming in, you'll see the fountain, you'll see the water, and you'll see a cap rock wall in there, much more attractive. It'll be a little higher than this, probably 1 course more, but that's what the cap rock wall looks like. We did them at Club Pelican Bay, hole in the wall, and well, so that, thank you. So the first thing to solve there is to get the eyesore problem done, get a good permanent solution. The tees are in good spots, but the bunker in the middle of the fairway is not in a good spot. So we want to move that over below the new 13. It's still wheelhouse. It's about 180, 185 off the back tee, but there's now a fairway you can play all the way straight from the forward tee, the most forward tee. You can play straight up the fairway. You got to aim at the water a little bit, but you can play straight through the golf hole now. But the way the bunkers are flanking the 200-yard mark where the turning point is shown, bunkers flanking that really make a difference on your tee shot, and they make you think about it. They make you think of not just playing away from the water. It's a very short hole. Golfers that want to drive the green still have the opportunity. We want to leave multiple options open to every golfer when they get on the tee. We want you to say, should I hit it longer and risk the bunker short of the green? Do I just lay up and then hit a wedge? How do I want to do this? Well, it makes a difference there too, because the green is proposed as pushed back. The center of the green's roughly at the back of the green now. It moves slightly away from the water. We retain those pools that are the existing pools. We push the green to where the back of the green will be at the base of 2 bunkers placed into the hillside going up to the cart path, which remains in its spot. There's a bunker front right. So the approach to the green, we eliminate those 2 bunkers. The approach to the green is wide enough to tempt the long hitter just to bomb it away there. And so somebody that hits it in the fairway is good with a wedge, can birdie the hole. The guy who drives the green and is the wrong part of the green, now he's got a challenging lag putt. So you could have that player theoretically parring the same as the guy that hit a shorter approach shot. Golf holes that keep golfers a little more even are really good. Those are strategic golf holes. Golf holes like Pete Dye was real. You might not like Pete Dye's style, but what Pete Dye did was he brought designing for match play back in to where golf holes didn't favor one person, but you could strategize your way around. And so the greens, as we are conceiving them, as they are equalizers to a great degree on this golf course. So I think the major problem there for 14 ability. So we're taking the pond edges here, above it there, and you know how narrow that is to get around there. We're opening it up to where it's about 35, 40% of the width of the green, just to envision what it would look like. So you can play all the way up on the ground, all the way to the green, but you have to take an outer route to do that. You don't have to necessarily have to loft the ball over the water to get there. So there's a new Glen tee proposed. What you see, the bright green, that's all new fairway. That requires another 5-foot cap rock wall, just as we were describing just before. Keep the existing bulkhead behind the green and the lower elsewhere. And we want to use that same material throughout because it gives a really good look to it. As was said, there's a lot of wooden bulkheads that have to be taken out. And on those holes on the golf course where the wooden bulkheads are taken out, there'll be a grassy slope down to the water instead of, I think we've done 16, I believe that will be. So this up against the challenging bunker, larger than the existing one. And we're taking advantage of all the ground that's more or less a ball containing bunker to the right side, just to keep squirt shots on the 15T. So I like the playability built into this, but there's lots of, that's a relatively easy corner pin placement, but that's challenging. And that's more challenging. You start bringing the water and the bunker more to play, even though it moves away from even though the edge of the green moves away from the water. We were careful not to take the water out of play everywhere. You know, we are moving some greens away from the water a bit. We don't want to do that to such a degree that it seems like we're dummying down the golf course in any way. The water is still very much in play. This is miss when the pin's back here. And we like getting the shapes of the greens in this way where you can put on a shorter hole, you can put a challenging pin position there or in the gap right in here. So, and you just play to the middle of the green and 2-putt if you want. So next hole, please. This is another hole that we would like to see some playability built into it with a proposed Glen tee just before the existing fairway. And along the right side with that scruffy area that never really seems to look very good, especially during the winter where the water levels are down. It's going to require a culvert pipe in there and just fill it in and grass it over. We thought about creating more lake, but then we got that whole lake bank problem that we're just creating more of. So we're just going to go with getting some grass over in that area. The second thing is it's a long and difficult golf hole, especially where the bunkers are placed at the green, but even maybe to a lesser degree, but for many golfers, more so the 3 bunkers in the fairway. So step by step, what we're doing here, we're broadening the landing area to the left, taking the cart path, and you see the new gray cart path pushed into the trees. We're removing some trees along the left side and expanding that light green fairway down the left side of the golf hole. As you play it, you're right as you view it. We're expanding the fairway almost through the golf hole, and we're not eliminating a bunker in the fairway because I think that's a really good feature, but we're getting it further down to where it's not for the shorter hitter getting right in the wheelhouse of the shorter hitter, and there's not much option left to the golfer. Bunkers in fairways are a great feature. Throughout architecture history, hazards, streams that cross golf holes, bunkers, 50 yards short of a green, those kinds of features were placed there. They reward a well-played tee shot. So if you have a decent tee shot, you can get over it and get up by the green. If you don't have a good tee shot, you have to think about a feature. So in this case, we've only got one of those features in the fair. We're retaining one because we think that's a good feature out on this hole. The putting surface is already, it's 15% large. There's an entrance here where you can run the ball in here. A bit of a depression. You have to carry more. So instead of the ball using contour to create golfing interest and risk and rewarding a good tee shot. Ball, it's also very visual on that left side. There, and the goes in a bit. You've got the that would be very attractive side. So 4, 5, 6. Okay. 2 putt for bogey. So you don't have that severe penalty, but the water's still in play. And we've only moved a wee bit over. I'm just trying to illustrate how the golf course might be a wee bit easier. I was asked to address one thing, and that is the question that seems to come up a lot is the golf course going to have the same course rating and slope rating? And it probably just about the same, because as we've been trying to illustrate, you've got landing areas a little larger, some bunkers out of the way in a number of instances around the golf course, but features like this that are not to contend with. So we're very careful about how the balance we have between enough cupping areas, enough playability on a green, and enough playing interest. It's very easy to make a really interesting golf course that's just unplayable. And it's also very possible to make a very playable golf course that's just not interesting. So a good architect strives for that balance, interest, maintainability too, in addition to the playability. That's where we're coming from with these features. This is kind of on this kind. We like to oftentimes get an undulating horizon on the back of a green for interest. Holes like 13 and maybe 14, they're going to kind of ride up into the hillside just a wee bit, but we like to have the putting surface as a really nice horizon on the golf hole. It makes a really good look. So next one, please, if we could. Number 18, another hole everyone loves to play, I know, all the time. So we'd like to solve some problems too without taking all the teeth out. We want to retain the tee for the 18th, back where 9 and 18 are, but we want to take just the very back portion of the area against the cart path and make that the back tee. Eliminate the rest of it. You can see where on the blue represents the water going up against that tee. That tee would basically be excavated with a grassy slope down to the water. We'd remove the existing tee there, and that's not for 9, but it's for 18. So then we get more ability without the lost balls in the grass, expand the coquina just over the lake. That's a long carry for many people in there. That's actually for, we want to expand the landing area down the right side, remove some of the coquina, get more grass there in the heart of the landing, and create more landing area closer to the trees, just make it more playable. Taking away the discontinued fairway in both instances here, but we're still bunkering nearby. The 2 bunkers that you see up just to the right of the numeral 18, they're pushed to the left, and the first one's cut into existing grade. The one towards me is going to require some fill. Those are the aiming bunkers you're going to have off the tee. There'll be better aiming bunkers than you have now. They're larger. And many of these bunkers are actually easier to maintain, to tell you the truth, than what you have. We like to try to eliminate as much, where it's practical and a good design decision visually, we like to eliminate the amount of grass that you have to mow over the banks. So you will be seeing some more sand, but we have the technology now where flash sand doesn't wash out like it used to. It makes no difference in the hurricane, like Club Pelican Bay, all that sand was washed out, even on the flat bunkers. So, normal rain events, normal maintain. So taking away the second cutoff and that bunker and pushing a bunker further out to the left, and it's in a natural knoll that's already there. So we just cut the bunker into that. And then down at the green is where the real work is on this. And that is, this is the existing putting surface here. You can see the green would be expanded. This is the edge of the water now. And we want to fill all this in with another coquina wall. So, and then it's gonna be coquina all the way from tip to tip over here. This area before the building and the cart path, it's tight. That has to be graded upward to hold golf balls and be cut in rough. The green is larger, a little, you can see it's a little further from the water, but the water is still clearly in play. Fatten the width of the green, and this is just a crown within the putting surface. You cup all the way around this thing, and there's various kinds of shots and things you have to hit. When you bail out here, you will no longer have the problem of your bail out here going over the hump and the ball rolling into the water. We're going to eliminate that. Obviously, you can skull one in there, of course, but we like par 5 with a green that rewards a well-placed approach shot. And you can see this on the variety scale, with the green compared to 6. The middle of the green on 6 is kind of a swale, a subtle swale that gets wide at the front. Here you've got the middle of the green rises a bit, and the edges of the green can rise a little bit to contain the shot, but totally different look on one of the par 5s than you have in the other par 5. So, and that variety, the strategy, design, and the naturalness is built in throughout. So, any questions about the design? Yeah.
Go ahead and keep moving.
Yeah.
And I have someone else to bring up.
Yep.
And we'll, okay, so we're going to do a Q&A here at the end, but I want to invite up Mr. Bob Jeffrey. He has a real big idea, right?
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Just in case.
right. Now we need to use that. We need to use that so that people at home.
Is it on now?
No. Great.
Can you hear me, Don? I'm Bob Jeffrey. I'm a former board member, also Golf Course Renovation Committee. I was going to assess that letter today, but John has addressed that previously, so I won't on that. But in that process, it really did begin 3 years ago in 2020, to the attention of the board that the golf course would need to be regrassed. We might have some issues with COVID that would delay our ability to hire contractors and have a project ready to go for 2023. So the first decision that was made was to put this project off to 2024. And at that point, Tim drafted, so we would be able to meet all the relevant dates in order to have the construction project completed in 2024. So at that point, Tim and the board came up with the submission through the survey to the membership, which brought back a lot of information that we reviewed and ultimately were submitted to Ron for his review and incorporate the feelings of the membership into this project. So eventually the discussions took on a greater tone. We talked about our bulkheads, which were at this point 23 years old and were deteriorating, requiring annual maintenance expense. And the feeling being that while the golf course is being changed for regrassing, we would also address the bulkheads since it involved a lot of the same turf. And we have to close down the greens one time to do the project at the same time. Our bunkers were also, because they're 16 years old, over time. And we were advised about the new type of bunkers that are being used by golf courses. It's called the Billy bunker. The Billy bunker was a design from Augusta National. Their superintendent came up with it. It involves coring out your bunkers, putting in a gravel base, and then use a special spray-on sealer that keeps it from beneath.
then the application of high quality sand, and with irrigation, then you have a new bunkering system that is designed to last for many years without having to redo them every 10 to 15 years. We discussed the problems we had with irrigation, the wet areas on 8 and 10 and other holes that sometimes delay play after heavy rain, causes more damage to the golf course when carts are sent out. So we felt that this was also an appropriate time to ask Ron to look into our irrigation issues, and his master plan does involve correcting the irrigation issues that we have. We also asked Ron to look at redesign of practice facility, golf cart parking, placement and redesign of the bunkers where necessary. Ron addressed several of those with his presentation today. So at that point, we interviewed actually 3 architects. All of them had worked for Arthur in 2008 when this golf course was last redesigned. And that was a very enlightening experience. Both of those men are now in their own companies, and one of them actually worked on our golf course. The other one was involved in the projects. They both said that they have good news and bad news. The bad news is your greens are too small. There's too much undulation for their size, and they're unnecessarily their placement near the water hazards and other hazards. But they said the good news is you have large green complexes. It gives us a lot to work with in redesigning them for playability issues and for improvement. So with that, it became evident to us over the last couple of years that this project was becoming big. And big is the acronym to the project. And the B for bulkheads and bunker. The irrigation and
Check. Hold on. Can you hear me?
is this
It works good for me. Hold it like that.
okay? So B is bulkheads and bunkers, I irrigation and drainage, G greens and green complexes. So with that, we thought that all of these issues that are necessary could be addressed at one time. This minimizes cost closure. It enables us to do all of these projects at a time when we really won't have to address any of these issues again, likely till 2040. We have funding for the bulkheads in reserve. We have funding for the golf course in reserve. We've had of rollover profits that we're able to put into this project. And we've designed it in a way that through the help of the finance committee, that some of the project will be funded by new owners as an amenities fee they pay when they purchase property. That fee does not apply to existing members moving within the community. And then the last component is the assessment, which the board and the various committees have worked very hard to keep to $3,000 per door. So on behalf of the committee, we hope that this project is approved, that we can get this golf course improved and really addressed for the next generation. And for playability issues of all skill levels, I think it accomplishes that. And by the way, before I turn it back to Tim, when we hired when we interviewed our 3 architects, Ron, of course, is the only one that doesn't have a pedigree with Arthur. However, he does seem to have a specialty of fixing Arthur's golf courses, as he's done many of them in Florida and other places. Ron has probably about 180 golf course projects on his resume. He's worked on many of the finest clubs in America. In my home, Rhode Island, he has worked on 3 of the top 4 ranked clubs in my state, including the one I was a member at. I talked to a friend who does golf course rating work for the USGA about Ron, and he said Ron is considered one of the top 10 golf course architects in America by the USGA for doing renovation work, and that we would be lucky to get him. And we agree, we were lucky to get him. He has put together a very exciting plan for us, and we certainly hope that the community supports it. Thank you.
Thanks for your big plan. All right, we're going to bring up Mr. Tom Gorski, treasurer of the club, and Allison, if you'll move it over to the financial section here. Okay, I think the secret to this. I don't know. I don't get it. Here.
Let's try. So, okay, here we go. We'll give it a shot. So Bob stole all of my thunder as for how we're going to pay for this thing, but let me just go back and walk through it a little bit. We always were trying to figure out what we thought the final number was. So right now we have determined with a 10% contingency that the course is going to cost about $8.3 million. Well, what do we have in the piggy bank that we can use? We have two buckets. We have in reserves right now, $4.7 million. And we have $800,000 of board restricted funds. So those dollars can be applied directly to the golf course to do the work, nothing out of pocket. It's out of the funds that are already here. So it's not going to cost us any more money. Now, we've got big plans. We heard about big, which is big. So to get to big, we had to figure out, we have a delta. We have to make up roughly $2.8 million to get big done. And again, I said, we have a contingency in there, 10% contingency, which is approximately $750,000 in that 8.3 million. So to get to that $2.8 million, the finance committee was tasked with, well, how are we going to pay for this thing? Well, we could just, could be an assessment, but we can look at the other things. So the finance committee went off and looked at what other clubs are doing and what kind of creative ideas are out there. And they came back with the thought of a new member amenity charge. And that was very well received by the board. And the board enacted that in November, December timeframe to come up with a $3,500 new member amenity charge for anybody that's new that comes in. Not a transfer internally, but anybody new coming off the street to pay for this. So $3,500. And we average about 40 new sales a year. So the new members, 40 new sales a year. And we're going to use that money to help pay for big, the project. Now, that still left us a shortfall of $2.4 million. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we did examine and we did take a look at a loan. Well, what if we were to go out and borrow $2.4 million for, let's say, 6 years as a number? You can make it shorter, but again, we're looking at 2 years to pay this thing off now the way we are. So we looked at 6 years, and what would that cost us? Well, given today's interest rates, it's pretty expensive. The cost of a 6% loan for 6 years would cost this project an additional $465,000. So that adds to the cost of the project. If we could get a 7% rate, and rates are going up, they're not going down right now. They're going to be going up for the next year. At 7%, we'd be over $500,000. It'd be about $550,000. So that just adds to the cost of the project. And the board felt that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to add $500,000 to the cost of this project is interest. When we're not really looking for a lot of money, we're looking for roughly $3,000 as an assessment to the members. So the board decided, the finance committee decided to recommend to the board that we go forward with recommending the $3,000 be paid in 8 quarters at $375 per person. So that's how we came to our equation or our numbers to figure out how we're going to pay for the big project. And any questions as to how we came up with that?
I'm going to try to
Okay,
get this over
Ed's-
there.
Your phone, we'll see if it works.
Okay, let's see. Not working.
If it's not working, then stand up and scream.
It kicked in on February 1st. So any property transferred after February 1st this year.
What you're thinking of is our working fund. We've had it since 2010. That is when a property changes hands. That's about 3,500.
What is worth the dues?
There you go. And that goes into operating. It's not operating. It's for capital amenities only.
They're still gonna pay the first one.
Yes.
And now they got a second one, people.
Yes, someone new to the community will pay both fees. If you're moving from within, upgrading or downgrading, you only pay the working that I spoke of first.
For $6,000 when they come in. Okay.
Well, we look at it by going, looking at what it costs somebody to buy into a community. Twin Eagles is an example. That's $100,000.
Right. No.
6,000, 100,000. Big difference.
We're open for all questions. Ed's got the microphone.
It is.
Time. Would this start? When would it complete? To be open, this is going on. Wait.
Sure. So the time frame, Allison, if you can flip this back to the timeline. The next one. So here we are at the town hall meetings. The membership vote in March. We will hire the contractor and the architect's already been hired. That's why I put a line through that. The permitting process will start immediately, but as soon as Ron can start getting the construction drawings. That'll take you a week, right? So we'll value engineer it if need be and continue to meet with the contractor. We'll spray and kill the golf course. Mid-April is the plan there. And you'll play on it for a couple of weeks. That will be a year from this April of 2020. So then we'll shut it down and the construction will start and we'll finish the construction mid-October, early mid-November. I'm gonna need to get my money back on the Can you do that? Wow. Good job, Carl. So what happens to our employees? A lot of our food and beverage employees go back to Jamaica. And we have in food and beverage, for example, we only have a small core group of employees that work every summer for us, and we need them. We're open currently, this summer we'll be open 6 days, as we always are. And we're going to need to look at that once construction starts. We'll most likely start with 6. We could knock it down to 5, maybe 4, but I don't see that happening personally. 2 nights a week we're open right now. We're going to try the same during the construction. Why wouldn't you come to dinner? You're going to be, golf doesn't drive dinner. Golf drives lunch mostly. So I think lunch is the one piece that we'll have to look at, and we might lose a day on that. Maybe we'll see. We just need to look at the numbers. What was the other part of the question?
No, it just.
Did I hit it all?
I was concerned about
Yeah.
retaining staff.
Yeah, and we will do our very best. And of course, we have wonderful staff and we care deeply about them all. And they do a great job for us in season. Why wouldn't we take care of them? Do everything we possibly can. Unfortunately, every golf course has to go through a renovation every 13 to 15 years. And everyone runs into these issues and you have to work through them. And you got to take care of people because those are the people that take care of us. We get that. Questions, Ed?
I was back here. I'll work my way up.
Okay,
You good? Back here?
Ed's working
Okay,
his way
Ms.
up.
Berg? Here you go.
The 4.7 in reserve, is that the current balance right now? Will that grow by the time the funds are needed?
Now, based on the analysis that Drew Isaacs did for the year end of 2022, and it will grow depending upon what the interest what the inflation rate that they plan to move forward into 2023. It could grow by $200,000 if the rate was 5%. We don't know what the rate's going to come out to be. It did grow considerably last year because they used 8% as the inflation rate based on CPI. So it's a matter of what will the inflation rate be when they do their analysis for the end of 2023, and we receive that in January of 2024.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure about, ignorant to that, I know that you have it in the summer. What happens when we're not offering them to come here? Do we still get allowed to go to other places?
Yep, that's a great question. We have been treating our reciprocal clubs the way we want to get treated. So over the last several years, when the club calls us and says, hey, our members don't have a golf course for the summer months, can you take care of us? So we're expecting that to also come back in return, right, Ed?
Exactly. This year, there's a couple that are closing down that we're working with right now. We did that. I think Naples Lakes had some bridges last year. We've been working on this for the last 2 years, is kind of overextending the reciprocal to those, knowing that we were going to be in this position in 2024.
Knowing we're going to be asking for a favor.
Yes, yes.
The question was something, what about reciprocals that we just answered? Okay. All right, Ed, next question.
Try my luck on this.
All right.
Is Ron going to be involved in the project all the way through?
All the way through.
I mean, as far as,
You 100% committed?
I don't want our design going out to some,
I mean, you're going to be you're going to be the supervisor. Do you also have a construction team that you use?
well, yeah, we don't have an in-house construction crew. We don't need that hassle. And I don't want the liability, and I want the liability on the contractor, and I want always to be the owner's representative and not have any conflict of interest. You need a change order. Oh, Force is getting 10%, we have nothing like that. So we have a number of, there's Jim Glaze, Tim's been talking to Glaze that does work here, and he along with another company did the Club Pelican Bay, and there's other companies that do other work. There's really good construction companies around that we have good working relationships with through the bidding process. We're pretty rigorous with that. Our bidding documents enable you to do apples to apple, the pricing. And at the end of the bidding process, before somebody's selected, if that's the direction it's going to go, we make them answer a series of 18 to 21 questions to make sure that, so we run them through the mill in that process. Not every project goes that way, and we'll see how it goes here, because there's already a contract of, those we know.
Yeah,
One
one of
more
the,
real quick question.
Uh-huh.
I'm done. All the debris, like the walls and the cart paths and all that, they're all going to be removed from the site.
it's going to be moved to the power line easement.
It's going to be moved to where?
To the power line easement.
Okay.
Stuff like concrete, I'd like to grind that up with a rock crusher and use that as base rock for our power line easement road where we travel our equipment up and down it, that road, so that we can avoid potholes, muddy potholes, keep our equipment nicer. So I have a plan for everything that comes off. I want to repurpose it if we can and use it to our benefit rather than paying someone to haul it off and go somewhere.
Will there be any bridge rebuilding, like boards or structures?
None of our bridges need to be rebuilt. There's a couple of top layer pieces of lumber that need to be replaced. I'll be doing a few of those this summer that I've noticed. There's 2 layers of lumber on all the bridge decks. One that goes this way and another that goes crossways. So you don't see both layers there. It's just the top layer that gets worn out.
This new eagle grass, how does it hold up in the winter and the summer?
Tiff Eagle grass. How's it? Watch the Chubb Classic Tiburon this weekend.
I was playing golf.
Well, how am I supposed to? So if anyone saw the Tiff Eagle at Tiburon, I mean, the pros loved it. It's wonderful. We have a wonderful superintendent that sent me to the belly putter because the greens were so good 25 years ago. So Tom Caliger, our superintendent, knows how to grow Tiff Eagle. And I'm excited to see that grass on the greens too. Yes.
Tiff Eagle's state of the art. It is the only grass in this area that we will ever recommend for putting greens. It's the only one that makes sense. And the green, all the greens, almost all the green list, you know, the remaining paspalums in the area there's a couple of champion Bermudas. Was that when we rebuilt it by the superintendent's choice, and then they regrassed to Tiff Eagle. It is easily the number one choice. There really isn't a close second.
And the other question was, how long before the course is really in?
Well, so the course is in playing condition
Yeah.
after it's rebuilt.
Right.
Well, it gets, it goes April, construction activities go April through maybe through about August. And depending on how much earth moving and other things that get in the way. But from that point on, it grows in and they're ready. Some people open them too early. We haven't discussed an opening date, and I don't know, but we don't recommend, we recommend maybe a little bit before Thanksgiving. And some open after that. And we've seen some open a little bit too early. So we had one club announce to the members they were going to open up a certain time, but without ever talking to the superintendent, general manager. So that wasn't, we don't want that kind of thing. The longer you wait to reopen it, not without killing yourselves, but the healthier grasses, because good grass is based on root mass. And the more root mass you can develop in there, the healthier grasses and the more resilient to car traffic and foot traffic and divots it will become. So be patient with the process, because it's a process. Yeah. Yes, the first year the ball's going to run a lot further on the fairway. The second year you're going to go, man, I aged 3 years and just won. But so you'll notice the ball it bounds more the first year, and then you start developing the thatch and the root mass in the turf. It starts getting quote normal. It won't be as much, but it's a little easier to hit the ball off the turf. And the greens are actually pretty good the first year on Tiff Eagle. They're really not bad at all. They're not hard pan or anything. They're very playable, but they got to be babied.
Yeah, to his point with opening the golf course, that's my job to really be on me and Tom, the superintendent, pushing and motivating the construction crew. So the sooner we can get grass on the ground after construction is over with, the sooner it grows in, the sooner we can open. Now, does that mean we're not cart path only for a couple of weeks for that? We open up a couple of weeks and we go to cart path only. Yeah, the golf course is going to be hard and fast. And it's going to be that way until you build that thatch up. And how do you build thatch? Thatch is through organic material. Organic material are the clippings that we're cutting off. And if it's not growing and we're not clipping, then you don't build that thatch. We need that thatch to build up. So that first summer that we're closed, we'll air fry the heck out of it to really soften things up. And it'll be the first go around when you open up, it's different.
I have a question from Zoom. Can I do
Sure.
that right now? Is that legit? In the event, it's probably for Mr. Gorski. In the event the assessment is approved, your large cost would be needed improvements non-related to the golf course. What type of reserve funds would we have to?
It all depends on what we're going to do. The reserve funds, there aren't a lot of reserve funds right now. After we're done this, we have approximately $5 million in reserves currently. As you can see, we're going to use a good chunk of it here. We add about $600,000 to $650,000 a year to reserves. So add another year to this and we'd have 5.6 million. Add another year after 224 and we'd have roughly 6.2 and 6.3 million. So there will not be a lot of reserves. And it all depends on what somebody's planning on doing. I don't know that we're planning on doing anything right now. And if we're talking about knocking down buildings, buildings aren't reserved for. The roofs are, the contents are, but the buildings aren't reserved for. So there isn't a lot of reserves in that can be applied to any kind of major renovation or major construction job that somebody may be talking about. And again, I don't know what that would be right now. Hope that answers your question.
And question I would have is once the evaluated the pace of play on the courts change, will that improve the pace?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting question. Interesting question. What do we think the pace of play will be with a new golf course? Well, when you get a golf course that's more playable and there's not as many penal positions that you can get into, the first one that comes to my head is the last bunker on the golf course, the 18th hole at the 150 marker. You get in that, that's not a 1-stroke penalty. That's like a 3-shot penalty. Now, if we're reducing 2 out of the 3 shots associated with that one bunker on every other group, yeah, I got to say that things move along a little better. It's a good point. Yeah, hit the bottom of it. No. Go ahead and give it to me. I'll repeat it. Can you give me one at a time? All right.
There are several clubs nearby that provide summer membership at Royal Palm. In addition to our negotiating for reciprocal privileges, could whoever is doing that negotiating do some negotiating to get a lower summer membership at clubs like Royal would for those of us who are here year round?
Yep. The question is, other clubs that offer summer memberships, can we negotiate with them to get a better deal since we're going to be out of commission? I'm going to put Ed on that right now, right away.
Okay, I'll be back.
Good suggestion.
Since we're going to tear the grass and kill it in March.
April.
This summer, instead of having 2 shut down, again, those of us who are here year round would ask the master board to consider only having 1 shut down. That would enable those of us that are going to move for tech summer to have 10 additional days this summer of play. It'll also bring in a lot of revenue that we wouldn't otherwise have. So I would see a benefit to it. Stay open. I don't see the loss because it's gonna tear the grass apart.
Right.
Anyway. So what we gain by doing it a second time?
What do we gain by doing our normal aerification schedule? So we are not going to do our normal aerification schedule. I think it's still important to aerify the greens twice this summer. But maybe when I say twice, we close twice. We aerify them 3 times. So there are some steps that we feel that we can skip. We still need to have a good golf course for the entire membership through next season. 54,000 rounds on a golf course. We're going to need to really be methodical and think through what we can skip that's not hurt us for the coming year, but what we can skip that isn't going to be any advantage long-term. So long-term maintenance issues, practices, we'll be skipping some of those. And I think you'll see a difference.
Last question. I don't see 150 yards. Forest land is one of the only courses that I see 150 yards. It seems like it's a relic of the 60s or 70s now that we have beach. What's your experience with the use of 150 And are they going to be included in this rebuild? Are we gonna go back to 150 yards? You referring to yes.
They're much more practical than they go off the side. Secondly, I have absolutely no learning. You could put a 12-inch thick farmer hole on it, and that has nothing to do with whatever. But they're actually very efficient, and no one ever hits them because they don't care. Yeah.
You fill in the hole?
Yes, but I mean, that would be our goal, but personally, I don't mind them, but you're right, now that you have people that know the course well, they're walking. People are playing like people a lot more by doing things, but around. There's how many of us, and then it's 146 yards. How many of us hit 146 yards to the net? I mean, really, I have no single guy, and my caddy friends the other day doesn't, where's 44, was 46. So, I think we have enough things going on there. We probably don't need them, but I may have got myself on the fluid by saying that. So, who knows? But yeah, keep on.
Sounds like a future committee discussion.
Mrs. Campbell?
Tim, question for you about landscaping on the new course. This course is obviously very color deficient compared to a lot of other courses we visit. Did it work? Okay. Are there any plans to increase the color on the course? Not talking about flowers, talking about flowered bushes, decorative areas, that kind of.
Yeah. Question on flowers or color on the golf course. It's something that we've been trying to work on. And yeah, you're right. Flowers don't work on a golf course. You're just feeding the wildlife at that point with flowers. But we have planted 35 bougainvillea bushes in the last year. Those take a few years to large enough so that they're seen. The berm behind, for example, 14 green looks beautiful there. 15T, we have some on 12. So we have a lot of those planted out there, and I'm hoping that they mature nicely over the next summer, and they really take off and look great with the new plan. So I think there are opportunities. Once the golf course is done, we'll look for like perennial plantings that have some color that the wildlife won't.
Okay.
Full-blown dinner.
And second part of that question. On 8 and around now, grasses that we did. A lot of conversations with people here. I haven't known anyone that said, oh, I just love the look of those grasses. Is there a question maybe of removing those and doing something else in those areas?
Yeah, the grasses on 9 and 18, will they be staying or going? So that's a discussion right now, board and committee level. So the choice are really killing me here. Concentrate. The choices are tough. It's what the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Is that how you say it? Do you want to look at rocks and dirt, or do you want to look at a plant that is green and sometimes brown? The water level fluctuation is very, very, very tough. You put a plant in and we get 100 inches of rain. That's a lot of rain. How inches? Plants don't. So yeah, it's something that we're definitely talking about.
Okay. And one other question, is there a difference in maintenance? If we're taking out the old, is it with the cost of maintaining typical, and what is the grass that's not going to be on the greens? What's the fairway grass?
Okay, so is there maintenance costs for the new grass
Additional.
in the additional fees? So I'm glad you asked that too, because I wanted to talk about that. The golf course has 60 acres of turf on it. Okay, 60 acres today, and today it's all paspalum.
Right.
The greens are 2 acres. So we're going to have 58 acres of paspalum. So that's going to be tees, fairways, roughs, and our greens, 2 acres.
Okay.
We'll have Tiff Eagle. And then the surrounds will be another Bermuda grass that will allow your ball when you get up onto the green and release up onto the green to help with playability. So, okay, so 57 acres of paspalum plus barrier grass plus 2 acres of Tiff Eagle. Grass is grass, water. Just maintenance practices are a little different. Actually, it'll take less labor hours. That's how you say it. Speak right now, we are verticutting and working real hard on the greens right now as we speak. Paspalum is tough on greens. And so I think that we'll be money ahead with what we're doing today.
But the rest will stay past Pelham.
Yes.
The rest of the courses, except for
58
the borders.
58 acres of the 60. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did a golf course renovation. We put in some sort of a system where we were pumping air under the greens to facilitate growth or dry them out, or I'm not sure. I haven't seen that system used in quite a few years.
Yeah, we haven't had, it's called the sub-air system. A lot of clubs have it. Augusta National's the most famous. They have sub-air systems through their fairways even. Have them in all of our greens, and we're expecting to keep that system. The plan with the contractor to keep the sub-air system intact. We haven't had to use it in the last couple of years, quite honestly, because we've had grass on our greens. So, yeah.
You've had one, somebody's back there.
Us.
Although I like the employee question, Mr. Wright.
You got, number one, great job on your committee. You guys have worked so hard with this. I'm so happy to see what you've done, and I hope it passes. But my question is this: are we going to continue to be able to use single carts? In other words, 4 carts and a foursome going forward?
That's a great question. It really put me on the spot there. Ed and I love 4 carts to a group. Why? Pace of play. That takes the heat off of us. The reality of it, when a new golf course in November, probably that first season, we're probably going to have to, but I have talked about this and like it for carts. We need to take care of the new golf course first and foremost. Then we need to make sure that our pace of play is also good. So good question. Let's ease into that.
Construction, during your phases, did you delineate the needed requirements for construction versus the area beautification? And will you're the team leader, I assume, for the project. You'll have other foremen who will be on site. Since it's kind of a large project, how are you going to maintain the surety that what we're paying for, we're actually getting? And also, with the finance person, how are you handling checks and balances, since it's our money, of course, and to assure that those funds are being spent appropriately?
Okay, so good question. Actually, Tom, our superintendent, and I have many years of not only of golf course renovation experience. We have our boots on, and we're in the mud and dirt every day, and we're making sure that all the specs are here too. USGA greens are built properly. We're out there with the contractor, the owner of the company. We know him very well. He did the 3 9s, 27 holes at Pelican Bay, one of the greatest clubs here in the Naples area. Ron redesigned it after Arthur Hills. So we have experience not only with this contractor, alterations in the last 15 years. And my experience, Tom's experience, I keep track of every dime. I'm back in 2008, Arthur Hills stood up in front of the entire membership when we opened up the golf course, and I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, there's a couple other little things that I wanted to do, but Tim wouldn't spend that last dime. So we don't pay for anything unless it's done. I keep a real tight look at the finances there. Checks and balances. I'm out there in the fields. Yep.
Next month.
The trail fee, what's the impact for the trail fee for the membership? So our budget assumption going into this summer, when we build the budget, I'm going to put in the assumptions and take it to the board and then see, and we build off the assumptions, and the board needs to bless those assumptions. And my recommendation is going to be to start to pay a third of the trail fee. That'll get you through April. And then when we reopen, pay as you play. So November, December.
Build in lost revenue into this.
So lost revenue is not in there, but we also don't have our savings for expenses. So we are sending back our carts. We're holding them for a 4th year. Okay. So they usually roll out on 3 years. So we should be getting new golf carts in October.
Oh,
Your carts? Yeah. Right. That's the plan. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, 215, 220. So there's a lot of pluses and there's a lot of minuses. I have maintenance equipment that are at the end of leases. I'll send it back. I won't be paying on it. I have offsets everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. And I have to hash that all through the budget process, and we'll see where we are come September.
I didn't understand Mrs. Campbell when was she talking about that tall weeds all around the fairways? I mean, all around, you know.
Some
like
people
an
call them
18
weeds, people call them flag.
Okay,
Yeah.
Alex. In professional recommend how to remove that and replace it.
Remove it, just chop it down and pull it out. We can replace it, but we need something that's going to grow 100 inches in a season and outgrow the water table. I'm not sure that exists. So we have, the options are slim.
So talking to a culturist in the area, they don't know anything about.
Not
it.
only have we talked to horticulturists in the area, but we've actually had the University of Florida here, and we've had the Botanical Garden come visit us separately, and on separate occasions, they both said the same thing.
Okay, so really, right, we can do to make it look better.
Now, there's things that can be done to change things. It's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Do you want rocks and dirt, or would you like alligator flag?
I mean, I've just talked to many.
Yeah. Are you going to vote no because of that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you hear me, but a couple questions. One on the 6th hole. Well, last time we did renovation, the pondscape was planned or talked about being done and then ran out of budget for it and so forth. And even things that were planted were killed with accidentally, I guess, with weed killers. And the pondscape is really dirt and rocks. I mean, it's not very pleasant. Is there any plan to include work on that 6th hole with that?
We're looking at all pond banks for the beautification, anywhere we can. Again, the fluctuation of the water, 100 inches of rain.
Yeah, some ponds, so you have plenty of landscape around it.
yeah.
It works fine. So
Yeah.
the other thing is on the amount of money that we are spending. I mean, we have a large number, including myself, high handicap golfers compared to the low handicap that would like to play on a championship golf course. And I don't know that in moving in here, many of us did not expect to have a championship golf course to play on, just a playable course, which in a large extent, I think is still very playable and well received by many people. And I've played on it since it was first opened. So I'm really concerned about the amount of money that we are spending on this. And knowing that you also have another committee for the clubhouse and exercise room and all this kind of thing, which is going to be a proposal that's going to be coming up in a short time, which is going to be more expenditures of money that you don't have in reserve or can't use reserve. And it's just going to be another large assessment. And I think that I personally know a number of people that think that we should look at some alternative plans to reduce the amount of money we're planning to spend for this improvement.
Okay, good point. Actually, when you're looking at future capital improvements, the thing about it is anything over 400,000 has to be approved by the membership. So you'll have a vote there, just like you'll have a vote here. Okay. And larger capital improvements that may require a loan takes your approval number up to 60%. Have to say yes. So you've got some pretty good protection in there for large projects. This project needs to be done. We're beyond the years of a golf course and how long the grass should be on the ground. I know you probably don't see what we're seeing out there, but the Bermuda grass that's coming through the paspalum is coming hard and fast. And in 3 years, maybe 4 years, you're going to be probably 60–70% Bermuda grass, and your paspalum is going to be in the minority out there. So yeah, we really need to stay ahead of this. That's why we're doing this now. And you go out to number 3 and you see these big patches of Bermuda grass. Every hole. 8 used to be the hole. Now it's every hole.
All right, Tim.
Yes.
As an example for what I want to speak on, is you mentioned a lot of the bulkheads, bad shape. On 14, you have a bulkhead that's on the common side, and then you have it on the golf side. Okay, are we just doing it around the course? And if so, how far back around are we doing it? And if you're not doing it on the other side, have you thought about maybe getting a cost on that to change those bulkheads at the same time?
Right. So yeah, there are other bulkheads in the common areas that are not going to be addressed during the golf course renovation. Honestly, the project gets too big. It becomes more than just a golf course project. When we start doing bulkheads in the common areas, when you bring that rock in, all the heavy equipment, you're destroying turf, you're destroying landscape, you're destroying irrigation systems. That needs to be a project that is common ground, beautification, landscaping that includes bulkheads. So it's just too big. It turns this project into a total blow up of the club and quite a mess, and something larger than could actually be handled in one summer.
There's no thought process in doing it at the same time.
There was thought put into that, but there won't be any bulkhead replacements in the common ground area, just on the golf course. This is a golf course project. Yes. Okay, the question was, what's bordering grass around the green, the barrier grass? Actually, grasses. One is called Tiff Grand and the other one's called Bimini. Okay. Well, all grass likes to run in certain areas. Some grass just runs slower. So you don't want to have paspalum up against Tiff Eagle. That's the one thing we do know. We do know we need to have that barrier between the Paspalum and Tiff Eagle. We have ways and plans on training that grass. And as it does encroach, you go in with a sod cutter and you take out a foot, you put some sand in. Over the summer months, it runs through it. So you have to constantly kick it back. Just like your edges around your house and your borders, your driveway, you have to edge around your concrete. The grass grows right over asphalt in the parking lot. So. The pump station, does it include that in this project? It does not, because it's a separate project completely. None of the dollars are commingled. The pump station is totally different. It's underway, and that will be finished before we have to water the new grass on the golf course. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey, only 10 questions per household.
Is there a plan B if this doesn't pass?
Plan B is no. So we don't have a second plan at this point. We are not offering a second plan. If this fails, will we need to come up with a second plan? Yeah. At the very minimum, we're going to have to regrass what we have today.
Okay.
I noticed in the vote that the board is going to take to proceed with this tomorrow, I think, isn't it?
Tomorrow is a special board meeting that is required by our documents to be held. And I'm hoping that the board ratifies and affirms that we're going to the membership for a vote with the finances we laid out before you. So
I noticed in that write-up, there was nothing mentioned about the practice area. Is that going to be included, or is it after, if we have money left?
The expanded practice area is one of the ad alternates at this point. It's in the money for that has been moved over into contingency. If we're doing good with contingency, they'll be moved back and we'll do the practice area. The great thing about the practice area is it can be done anytime. We built the current practice area in the winter months, because it's off to the side. It doesn't mess up a hole on the golf course. It doesn't shut down the golf course. That's something extra on the side. Along with that is also the artificial turf driving range mats. Those are also an ad alternate at this point in contingency. The list, what is the list of contingency projects? Okay. In the ad alternates, we have, like I just mentioned, the short game practice area, the clock that could go between the driving range and the first tee, some of the clearing or moving the tee to the west and clearing some of the trees in that area, artificial turf driving range mats. What else? The cart path, the tee box on number 8. We'd like to move that to the right side, but as of right now, it's still on the left side. That's an ad alternate. The alternate green 9, the lake, and a portion of the woods on 16. We showed you the plan for 16 up there, widening the landing area and moving the fairway further north. All right. Those moved over into, it's part of the 8.3. Am I right? Am I saying that right? Total cost, it's not, it's sitting in contingency. We need to make sure we're in good shape financially as we undergo this project. We're over a year out on breaking ground. What's the economy going to look like in a year? What's fuel costs going to look like? Oil drives PVC pipe. It drives the construction costs. What's labor going to look like a year from now? If anyone has these answers, I need them because I need to invest. We'll probably purchase materials early as if we see they're going to go up. What's trucking costs going to be? There's- Yep.
We want to be fair and have something, you know.
Yep.
Building so they're not, you know, going poor on us.
Originally what followed with $500,000 in contingency dollars. The finance committee and the board really didn't think that was enough. So we've identified those items as items that could be done later and add to the contingency, which gets us up to around $800,000. So that was the plan, and that's why we came forward. Now, we could have bundled it all together and increased the number for the assessment to something larger than that, but again, we thought that was a more palatable number for the community, and we wanted to stay with it. And maybe manage the project to where we are. So we have 800,000 contingency. We could have had 500, we could have put those items in, but we felt as though it didn't need to happen to get us whole and have a golf course. That's how we work it.
Other questions?
A question from someone on Zoom. Can you hear me? No?
Assuming this goes to the vote of the membership, when we vote, are we going to have to vote on the whole enchilada? Or are we going to be able to vote for just the regrassing versus the other things, which I assume the regrassing is already paid for in the reserves?
Your assumption is correct. Regrassing is paid for, already reserved for in the reserves. When you go to vote, the what's before the board is a straight up yes or no on the project.
Okay.
That's for
And-
tomorrow.
Okay, and from the total project cost, how much of that cost is force fees, administrative fees?
Administration, architectural fees?
Yes.
How much are architectural fees? They're, yeah. I want to say, yeah, I was thinking 230. Yeah, it's in the 230 range. Yeah.
Question here.
Are you going to publish a line item budget to address all these little questions?
Are we
Well-
going to publish online budget?
In other
We're
words,
not,
that
we're-
would show the fees and show the contingencies and show the grass and show the stone, and show line item
Yeah.
budget.
Well, yeah, the committees work through all of, by publishing, and I don't know what that publishes because you're voting either yes or no on the project. You're not able to say, well, we're going to put 10% less sand in the bunkers. That's not,
It's just a factor for transparency.
we're very transparent. Come see me anytime. I'll show you everything we have on paper. Absolutely everything.
And you said new carts are coming in October this year?
I said they were planned to come this year in October, but we have delayed them to come after the golf course renovation. So we're going to save that money. We will have no golf carts in our barn during construction. So we will have no lease payments while we're in construction.
And then how is the vote administrated?
The vote will be electronic. And we expect it to go to the membership March 10th. So be looking for an email on that.
Are you doing any other work on the area? Yeah, well, when we're gonna be doing ours.
Yeah, probably gonna be working on the range at Pelican Bay and
All right, the only reason I'm asking is apparently there's, people don't like that stuff. We got the mud all around some of these holes. You say, would you rather the mud or the plants or whatever? Are any of these courses that you're working on, you have to get rid of some stone? stone walls and that we can possibly save you money for dumping it. You could bring it over here and we could lay it out where we have these areas.
You mean cap rock? Because that's the only stone that you would want to put on the course as a wall.
Well, I'm talking walls, I'm talking, those plants we're talking about that look ugly about the thing. Instead of not doing anything back to that. If he has, crushed stone stuff, courses put up, or like what we have some around, right before you get onto the 18th hole. What? Yeah, something that's gonna look decent, that if you have to dump it and pay somebody to dump it, you could just put it along some of our waterways to cover the dirt and mud.
Usually if they're throwing it away, it's probably not the stuff that you're going to want to put out there. And there are some lake liners that you fill sacks with and things. We're going to continue to look into some other things that we're trying to continue our knowledge of too. So we'll keep looking. We'll do the best thing. There's no doubt. So.
Got one here.
All right.
If you didn't get a questionnaire when you came in, they will be in the back there. Mr. Hagan has them for everybody.
Some of the concrete cart paths are starting to look a little rough, especially like even right around the barn. Are those a part of this? Are they going to be redone or?
Golf course cart paths, and it wouldn't be like common ground areas. But if we have an opportunity where I see and we have extra funds and we're going to be in the vicinity and we need something done, I'm always a guy that likes to get a good deal from a contractor that's working 10 feet away from something. I always try to piggyback something on where we can.
Tim, you mentioned that we're going to have electronic voting for the golf course. What is the period of time that members can vote? And what is the percentage that you need to pass the renovation?
So electronic voting will start March 10th. It'll be open for 2 weeks. It'll finish at 5 o'clock on a Friday, 2 weeks after March 10th, whatever that is. Assuming we have a quorum, if we don't have a quorum, then the state statutes allow us to keep the voting open for up to 90 days. Okay. I would probably recommend that we keep it open a week at a time to get our quorum. Our quorum is 50% of the eligible voters of the club. So it's 50% of 799 minus 2 or 3 that are not eligible to vote at this time. So we need a simple majority or the simple majority rules, yes or no, on the 50% quorum. All right, it looks like another question up there.
The architect on one of the many things that was correct in 2008 was getting rid of car path going through the fairway. Now, number 6, that hill, great, but you're recommending taking that through the fairway.
Yeah, we thought of that. It's better. We like keeping it away from the condos on that corner on the left side, get the activity away from that. And then also the fact that people end up on the right side 80% of the time on a golf hole. So we wanted to get it. We chose to go earlier than later to get to the right side of the green, the right side of the hole. So it makes sense from a traffic standpoint, and visually you won't see it. Some cases you don't, we try to avoid crossing a hole with a cart path. In this case, we felt it was much more prudent to get them earlier across the fairway, and it's going to be a hidden cart path. We've done it before. We have it on one of the holes at Club Pelican. Sometimes going way around the back left is inefficient for cart path. Everybody's going to start riding up the right side anyway.
Okay, looks no more questions. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Look forward to everyone voting on March 10th. Thank you. Thank you to all the presenters, Mr. Jeffrey, Mr. Saling, Ron, Forrest, Mr. Gorski,